Venezuela is on the brink of bankruptcy, starvation, and quite possibly revolution. Millions strong marched in the streets this week in what are easily the biggest protests in opposition to government anywhere in the world right now. I did a video a couple months ago where I declared Venezuela a socialist basket case. It appears that moniker is more appropriate now than ever before. In 2016, their economy shrank by 18%, and unemployment currently sits at 25%, although many speculate the actual number is much higher. As President Nicolas Maduro steadfastly holds on to power, he has left little choice for the people of Venezuela, who are literally unable to feed themselves or their families. It's gotten so bad that the mothers of newborn babies have begun to abandon their children. On Wednesday, the protests were so big, estimates had the numbers of around 2.5 million people in the streets. You can see some of these photos from Twitter and get a sense of how massive these protests are. Maduro is beginning to panic. He knows his days are numbered as the opposition has been well organized in these protests, and the numbers are completely on the people's side. But the government has the great equalizer of our time: guns. In 2012, Venezuela outlawed private gun ownership. Before that law, anyone with a gun permit was allowed to buy guns privately in Venezuela. However, after the law was passed, gun sales were restricted to the army, the police, and some private security companies. Now, in combination with that gun ban in his waning days in power, Maduro declared over Easter weekend that he was going to be expanding the country's national Bolivarian militia from 100,000 to 400,000 people, and promised a, quote, gun for every militiaman. If you're thinking these militia are essentially socialist thugs who are going to be enforcing the will of Maduro, then you would be right. This is the most concerning thing I can think of, and it makes you value a constitutionally protected right to bear arms, as our American friends have. I pray the protests remain peaceful, though, as arming that many militia to enforce the will of a dictator has all the signs a civil war may not be that far off. The last vestiges of any free market means of production also appear to be under attack this week, as General Motors reports that one of their plants in Venezuela has been seized by government authorities in what GM describes as a, quote, illegal judicial seizure of its assets, and GM strongly rejects the arbitrary measures taken by the authorities and will vigorously take all legal actions within and outside Venezuela to defend its rights, unquote. Around 2,700 Venezuelans work for GM at the plant, and the company plans to provide separation payments to its workers. In another completely bizarre story, it was also revealed this week that Venezuela, through their state-owned oil company Cisco, donated $500,000 to Donald Trump's inauguration. That's the same amount given by Walmart and Pepsi for reference. The only plausible explanation for this is that Cisco and Venezuela must have hoped that their donation would somehow prevent the approval of the Keystone XL pipeline that would see Canada's ethical oil offset the conflict oil from Venezuela. But it's also a very strange use of dollars for Venezuela's oil company, because we know there is literally a fleet of unused, unoperational Venezuelan oil tankers all around the world because they are too dirty and oil-stained to be accepted into any international ports. And with no money to pay for the repairs, Venezuela cannot export the one product they absolutely must: oil. You know, it's quite remarkable at times like this, those in the West espousing the virtues of socialism, like Bernie Sanders or Naomi Klein, are notably silent when it comes to the situation in Venezuela right now, which is directly the result of failed socialist ideology once again. For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson. Whether it's South Africa or Venezuela, the winds of change appear to be strong in those two countries. Keep it locked to the Rebel.media for all your international news updates.